Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're joining us from in the world. We are Voice of Men 360, and you are joining us today for Open Up. This is our live talk show that we host Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm RJ Horner, and I'm your host and facilitator, and I'm the vice president for Voice of Men 360. So let me share a brief intro about Voice of Men 360, International Men's Day, and why this talk show, Open Up, is so important. Voice of Men 360 was founded in 2020 in Toronto, Canada, because many men and boys are seeking help and support in many areas of their lives, and they're not finding it. We understand those demands and needs, and we were created to step up and meet those tremendous needs to help provide services for our overcoming men's and boys' life challenges. And we are part of International Men's Day here. Um, International Men's Day has been serving over 21 years and now represented in 90 countries around the world who join together doing various activities to represent men on a regular basis. IMD follows 6 pillars, which represent the overall well being of boys and men, and we follow in those same footsteps. So why is Open Up so important? Because men and boys are not willing to open up our hearts, and we're not willing to share our matters with people. We keep emotional challenges and behaviors locked inside of us for a long period of time, and this creates ill adverse effects for men's health conditions, and we want to improve that situation. So we've created an open space to allow individuals to share their life journey through our platform. We aim to create awareness about the life challenges, the struggles, and that men and boys have to go through in their lives. There's no limitations with who can participate. We welcome all genders, ethnic groups, nationalities, ages. Everyone is welcome to participate and share their story. Our goal is to make a positive impact on someone's life through this platform. Open Up again is on Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. to 10:30 Eastern Time. Each week, we'll bring an individual to share their life experiences with you. Today, our guest is Lynn Chittick. She is the founder of Torch, the organization for realizing change in humanity. And she is also an author, a speaker, a business owner for over 26 years. She's worked as a registered nurse for 12 years. She's also a theologian focused on cultural, multi-diverse, and generational issues. She believes a model of shared economic relationship for small business owners must be connected through organizing businesses with future generations in mind. Welcome, Lynn, and thank you for joining us on this Sunday morning.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lynn Chittick. Thank you so much, RJ, and thank you, Sivam, for having me for Voices of Men. This is my second visit here, and I'm so appreciative of this topic.
Well, thank you for joining us in this community. We are about helping men, of course, overcome their life's challenges, but that comes from not just men. Men and women are interconnected. So we like to have everybody share their life story and their life journey. So take us back a little bit and prepare us. What made you who you are?
Thank you so much. That's such a good thing, because right here is a picture of my son. So I'm just going to give you that. And he's a musician, and they actually made the Fox Theater in Boulder. Okay. And their band was Rockton Grove. And I'm sharing that today because I just became a grandmother to his first child. And I'm here in Colorado visiting him. I met him yesterday. My grandson's name is Zion. But I want to share this story because my son brings me to the greatest gift of my soul life is music. And so when he took on his first guitar, he made his own guitar and went on stage. It was so exciting for me because I was on stage as a young teenager, and I started my own local show, and then I ended up making the Rolling Stone magazine at 19, just by chance. It was totally a funny story, but I love playing guitar. I love music. And when I think about my son, Theo, it was my 60th birthday last year, and his wife came to me, and I had been dating a little bit. I had been single for 20 years. I still am single, but um, when I think about this, she came to me and she said, I just want to tell you that your two sons that you've raised are the most precious, amazing men that I've ever met. And I want that for you. And because I've watched your son Adam, I've watched my husband Theo, and they're just amazing people that really care about us as women. And so when I first started with Voices of Men, I just want to share with you that, the children of this life raised me. My kids raised me. And any mother, I hope, would say that, because children teach you everything. And as I watched new parents, the baby was 2 weeks old yesterday, and I'm here to cook and help and change diapers and just love them. This gift of mothering is the gift of my soul also, because women give birth, right? And they gave birth to the men of this world. And, you walk through the doorway of motherhood, and it's not easy. Motherhood is a very powerful time, but it teaches you everything. It teaches you about finances. It teaches you about relationships. It teaches you about connections. It teaches you about patience, and you name it. Motherhood and fatherhood teach you this. So it's a great gift to see them as parents. They're going to be amazing to this little boy Zion. We welcome Zion to this world. And I hope that answered your question, RJ, a little bit. But my children, and then bringing children to our home. I held festivals in my 20s and 30s, like huge festivals at my home. And so my house was always filled with children. So I think that's been my gift of growing up, growing into the person I am today at 61.
Oh, absolutely wonderful for that, because there's something we as men will never know, right? We can't understand that the responsibilities of motherhood instantly take on this higher level that just you have to match, you have to meet, right? And so you guys get this um I don't know, I don't even know how to describe it, charge, joy, um influence that automatically comes from being a mother.
Yeah, agreed. I think when you start thinking about that, you've got to understand, I don't think I really got being married and what my husband dealt with until I saw my sons, and that's a powerful statement to say, because, you want your husband to do this or that, or how come he doesn't want to wake up? And, I literally was just talking to my daughter-in-law about some of this. And I said, it doesn't come naturally. Men have different talents, and we have to see the gifts of talents from both sides. And compassion and relationship is so key right now to keep families together. I went through a divorce, and I've kept so many couples together since then. And I actually counsel people to stay together and really help relationship in the way, because, it doesn't make life better just because you think you're not with the right partner. It's a powerful thing to build that stamina. And I'm not talking about abuse or things that might happen in a relationship where you have to leave, but I'm talking about other types of relationships that could stay and really stand in the fire. The Torch is all about, Torch is the organization for realizing change in humanity. And for me, it's about peace, health, environment, and tech. And those four pillars have to come within you. They have to come deep within you in a spiritual way. So your inner peace, your inner environment, your inner health, your inner technology, which is the technology of the world right now, right? We're innovated with technology. And when you start standing in the pillars of those, then you can stand in the relationships on that a little bit outer, which is your family. The peace of your family, the environment of your family, the health of your family, the technology of your family. I mean, I just raised my fifth child, and she just went off to college, but it was my first child in social media. And it was challenging. It's huge for a mother to learn. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm just like opening to as you're talking, RJ.
No, that's perfect. I can see why the term theologian applies to you, because you seem well versed in humanity and our different aspects that we have as sexes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love your perspective on that, because again, there are some things we will never know as men, right? But we have to learn to respect each other as individuals so that we can grow as, like you say, you weren't able to survive as a couple, but you're teaching other people how to do that in their place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you've been like this for, I mean, well, where did this knowledge come from? Where did you get these skills?
I call the higher level, whom I call God. So for me, the relationship came from a young child. I grew up in a home with two alcoholic parents. I grew up in a home to take care of myself from a young age. I grew up breaking up fights from a young age. And so, as a young child in an upper middle class family, we had a 14-room house, six fireplaces. And when you drop in and you realize the gifts that I was given, at the same time, I was given this life, and we're born into a life, we're born into a religion, we're born into a community of people. And you kind of say, some of us say, how did I get here? And I was a breech birth. I go back all the way to the breech birth, and I say, I don't know if I wanted to come in once I realized. But, this gift of spirit, of spiritual life, of love of God came through nature. And animals and I were one as a child. I mean, I was one. I had horses going behind me on the street without a lead, which is a rope, like how you lead your horse if you don't know horses. But I had dogs and cats in my car as a teenager, and the cats would sit on the roof of the car, and people would like say, who is this person? But this depth of knowing, it felt like animals knew better than us as human beings. And so I'm always praying my whole life. And so this connection spiritually to God is a very deep, rich depth. And Torch started because I worked as a nurse and I watched elders for many years not being respected in America, not being held in the spirit of who they were and what they've been and who they've been. And it's one of the heartbreaks of America for me. And I think it's the world too. Kids are leaving other countries. I've been very involved with Pakistan for the last 5 years. And when you start looking at the family culture there, I just love it. And I always tell people in Pakistan, stay Pakistan. Don't become America. Don't become Canada. Don't become, stay Pakistan. And because the family unit's still connected in a rich way. And the love of God is there. And I don't think we don't have that here, but we've gotten into an industrial world of a machine thinking instead of a community and a collective thinking. The machine learning is going to hurt us if we don't connect that piece back in to the heart of who we are as human beings. We're just we're precious. We have a heartbeat. We're precious in the heart. We all have the same heartbeat. This whole thing of race, I don't really believe, because I'm from many different traditions in my family unit. And I think of this, I've never seen color. And I know that racial issues are there, but I do believe that we are all have the heartbeat and we all have the same blood, and that blood comes from this beautiful food that we've eaten and our mother ate in our womb. And we're a gift. We're a gift. And if you can celebrate life, no matter how difficult it is, if you can celebrate, if you can bring the celebration into the hardship, it will rise back up, and try to make other people happy.
Absolutely. I love the way you have to put things. But you talk about look, you've shown us you pride yourself on motherhood and your relationship there. Would you maybe tell us where that comes from? What were your influences like growing up as a young girl from your parents?
Yeah, I think both my parents, alcohol as a disease. I see it as a disease and a dis-ease. My parents were so compassionate, and my mother just loved people. My father loved people. And that influence was what I saw. The gift of parenting comes from the love. And no matter what parent you have, if you can find that inner love from your parents, that richness is there. And, my parents gave us a lot. It's not that they didn't. But I think when you look at that, but I have some really deep a deep elder women that I would say that were my mother's friends that influenced me tremendous. And then my church life. My best friend growing up was her father was a minister, and I was very deeply connected. And my other friend, my teenage friend, her parents were Baptist, and I went to church, and she wanted to go hang out with the kids. I wanted to stay and listen to scripture. So there I am as the theologian as a young child, and I wanted to stay in church and listen. I liked listening to adults and try to, understand the depth. I'm not a small thinker. I don't do well with small talk, to be honest. I'm pretty ignorant. And sometimes it's just, this depth of, I love to teach. I love to write. I love to create. And I think I loved that as a child. So I think when you start listening to adults as a child and start learning, one of the issues of our young people today, they don't want to learn from the elders and they don't want to learn from life experience. And I was not that child. I wanted everything I could do to listen to elders because I knew they were here longer on this planet. Some knowing knew that. I don't know why, but it was there. But yeah.
Absolutely. And you know what? I come from much the same thing. I'm inquisitive. I want to know more. Much the reason I've kind of gotten into this show is because
Awesome.
you want to know more about life and about those who have that life experience, right? And your experience has been in the medical profession. You must have seen your share of hardship, your share of struggles. Um, would you maybe have some instances where you've seen young men struggle and how they came about? You don't have to share specific people, but if you could share some instances through your career.
Thank you so much. My career comes from an organic food background, and I had a breast tumor at 26. I want to come back to a little bit before I answer your question.
Sure. Yep.
I want to come back to health, and I want to come back to what is health and what is your deepest understanding of health, because I think we've got a lot of backwards thinking in us in this country and everywhere. And the backwards thinking for me is about chemicals and toxins in your home because they cause brain dysfunction. And so if you're using chemicals in your house, you're already getting your brain confused. So when we start thinking about how we react and how you react from maybe what a young child does, I could be at a grocery store and a young baby's crying, and I know it's not the parents and the parents feeling embarrassed, and it's from the sugar and the extremes that this child's getting given. He's getting extremes, he's getting artificial colors, so the chemical age came in around the 50s in America. And this chemical age is huge. And when I started feeding my family with natural foods, my children became another whole being, and they started sleeping at night, they started not screaming at night, they started not, and so I have to start from that root. Otherwise I'm just talking. And
Okay.
I don't want to just talk. I want to share why I became who I am.
Yeah.
And
No, thank you for that because
yeah,
it gives us a good perspective.
yeah. So when you talk about healthcare in our system, healthcare is putting band-aids on and it's not going to the why. And that's why I started Torch Health. And Torch started as the organization for realizing change in healthcare. But I realized that my thought of health was much greater. And so the H in Torch became humanity, because I really believed in those four pillars, that health came from that inner peace. And I did a lot of work. And so if you look at young men today, and look at the pressures of men is huge. And I saw it in my sons trying to provide for their families. I'm seeing it still. And I'm seeing it from a perspective of a woman that wants to be connected to her husband and she's not. And I'm seeing it from the relationships of how human beings just relate to each other. And young men have huge pressures and how to provide for a family. And I think that's why there's so many divorces, and how do you bring that to a place? And that's, again, we work a lot with business and development and, how entrepreneurs come together. We're a shared leadership. I'm learning every day, just like you are, Jay. I'm going to learn for the rest of my life, but the pressure that we put on each other to be a gender to be who we are, it's kind of innate in one level because women give birth and they have a child, you know, and all of a sudden you got to take care of the child, and who's going to feed them, and who's going to take care of the mother, and who's going to take care of, I'm watching my son. He's just amazing as a young dad of 2 weeks. And, he's just loving his wife and making sure she has water and making sure she has food, making sure she has, the baby's picked up because, she had a C-section. And those simple things that, how the kind of heart that each male has to deal with. He's got a business. He runs a huge business, and he's got pressures at work, and he runs a team of, I don't know, 15 people, and he's been in business for himself. And, that's what it is. And COVID came, and then, history after that. Like, it's like the pressure on families and men, of providing for their families, is what I also shared for 20 years. I provided for my own family for 20 years. So I kind of became male-like, and I didn't like it. And I don't want to be that. And I just, it's challenging. It's really powerful to watch your sons do what they do. And so I think that's a really big piece. And I think if we can build a non-separate world in communication about that, and really what you guys are doing is phenomenal. What Voices of Men is doing, just the first time I spoke to Sivam and saw the depth of where he's going with Voices of Men, I'm totally thrilled about the work you're doing, because it's needed. We have to speak up and say, what am I feeling about this? How am I feeling? Like, this is hard to go out in the world. And I remember a long time ago, a really good male friend said to me, he said, I had to put my boots on, and it was like a ritual to protect myself out in the world. And I said, really? He said, yeah, that's what I felt. I had to put them on, and every day I'd put those boots on, and I had to deal with all those people. And I saw it a lot in theology of people. Theologians tend to speak about this type of stuff because we talk about human nature a lot. And, it's beautiful to watch. I remember a really good friend of mine grew up in the Black community, and just even that whole scene is a whole different scene. And I didn't put down race to put down race a few minutes ago. I put down race to say, I pray we put down our swords about race and open ourselves to what our communities of the Black community, what the Native American, which is my family of origin, and what people have gone through in the name of keeping a connection to heaven and earth, keeping that earth connection and not having it. The African people that came over, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine the trauma that we have, ancestral trauma, and it's really challenging to have trauma within this human soul. And every single one of us, I've studied trauma. I haven't gotten certified in trauma, so I'm not really an expert, but I've experienced trauma. And when you experience something so deep, and it doesn't come even from you, and it comes from your family unit, and then it comes from your grandfather or grandmother, and then it comes from your great grandfather and great grandmother, and what they had to do to leave a country and go to another land just to survive. These are what we live here, and we don't see it. We don't want to go deeper with that. And unless we go deeper, we're not going to help the next generations to have a soulful life, unless we open to that possibility of having communication around it.
Absolutely. I think communication is key. My wife and I, we are able to get through. Like you say, life doesn't stop because you're having a child or because you're having this. You know what I mean? You still got to manage all of these things, and communication without it. Like you say, my wife once mentioned to me, why do I have to do these things? Why should I? I'm the woman. You know what I mean? Not the way she was putting gender rules, but why should I have to do this and this and this, right? Without having these conversations, we don't get quality management of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I thank you for that. And then I also thank you for praising the work we do here, because I believe it's up to us to raise the voice, to have the discussion. So thank you for joining us and having these discussions today.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I can see where your pillars, you got 4 pillars you talk about: environment, peace, health. Totally makes sense for this realizing change. But you've also highlighted technology. How does that apply to this your 4 pillars, the torch format?
For this very reason, I think we're changing, our kids have already been here and they have been changed by technology. And so technology is our cornerstone. And if you look back to technology, it comes from a circle. The first computer was made from a circle, right? Just like the car was made, the cars changed our lives. Technology today has changed our lives. And it's right in the center of our discords, and it's right in the center of our joys. And for me, if we don't put that in the place, raising a child through the millennials and then raising a child from, what's the new one? Sorry, I don't know my daughters actually what they're called. I should know. It's blank.
I'm not sure of the next beyond millennials. I'm not sure what the next
No,
generation
it
is.
is. I think it's. Anyway, I'm not going to say because I don't remember. I know there's a name, but I watch her and she grew up and she's like worldly, and she was speaking to people in Pakistan, and that's why I wanted to have Torch connect kids to kids, because I feel like in 20 years we could create a system change with kids connecting to kids in those four pillars and grow seeds. The whole project is growing seeds in different schools from different places and having. I really have a lot of faith that if we don't have a generational technology that is multi-generational, multi-disciplined, multi-faceted, we're not going to have peace, health, environment. It's just not going to happen. We just got done Torch Environment, and it was so great because a scholar from Brazil, Mark Lund, he's an amazing soul for me, and I asked him to, make the actual. Each member takes on different ideas or different thoughts, and because it's a shared leadership. I'm not the leader. I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to be hierarchical. But Mark made the theme for Torch Environment, and he did it about mental, and he did it about natural, and he did it about ethereal. He said, there's three environments for me. And there were phenomenal talks that we had. You can go to my YouTube channel, Lynn Chittick. I'm trying to get a Torch YouTube. I'm not tech savvy, so one of our issues is tech. But, you guys are doing really great. But I think technology, same with Voices of Men, you've got technology in the consciousness. And, I wear an electric magnetic field around my neck, and this is to protect us. And I do tests on people to show that it's really key. And electromagnetic fields are real. And if you can protect yourself from the energy of phones and electronics, it's really key to your health. It's really key to your peace. It's really key to your environment. So I have them all around my house. And I'm very clear about that we have to protect ourselves as well. So, and it works from both sides with health, peace, environment, and tech. You have to look at both sides. I look at it from a unifying principle. I teach from a unifying principle myself, and that's about light and dark, happiness, sadness. You have to look at both. When you cry so much, you become happy. You start laughing. When you laugh so much, you start crying, right? So this is very normal, natural way.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that. Because again, there is one of the areas that it's very integrated in our life, and we have to master it if we're going to be able to survive or move forward with this technology and use it as the tool it was always meant to be. So one of the other things is you mentioned the work we do, and Sivan once posted a post out there. What do you think about when you think about our men and boys? And the word came to me, disconnect. So I'm glad you talked about that today. You also mentioned that you work with women who are trying to connect with their men and can't. Could you maybe describe on that more? How can we bridge that connection? How could she bridge that connection?
That's a good question. That's really great. I really believe, I'm going to speak from personal experience. Men need men and women need women. And if women try to control men and men try to control women, I promise you it won't work. You have to give each other that deeper relational humanness, that we're all individuals and we all come from these way different backgrounds. And two of my sons have married into Brazil, and I am so determined to learn Portuguese because, my grandkids are speaking Portuguese. And unless I connect to that, I'm not going to find the depth of my own grandchildren, and I need to get to Brazil. I haven't been to Brazil yet. So as I go to Brazil and experience Brazil, I will get to know these mothers, and I will help my sons help whatever form. And it comes from a generational. I think you have to learn again from these elders how to build. And I highly respect people that have been married 50 years. I'm not highly respectful of people that have not been happy for 50 years though. I think there's an intergenerational need for us, and I'm going to speak from an indigenous culture now. So your indigenous relationship to male and female were longhouses. We went to the longhouse and we had discussions in the formal setting of both men and women. The women, it was a much more matriarchal system, not a patriarchal system. And that matriarch took over from the wisdom of the group. The mother and the grandmothers were really the wisdom keepers of the lodge. And when you look at that today, we don't have that. And so men are not guided. They love their mother. That it's a disconnect from their own mother, because the society says you're disconnected from your mom. You got to go be a man. And that disconnect is the loss of the compassion that these boys even felt, the love that they even felt, the care that they even felt. And I'm not saying every mother has done that, but a majority of our men and women have been raised by men and women. It's the same thing with me, with my dad. I loved being at work with my dad. I learned so much. I traveled with him. I learned entrepreneurship from him. I learned how to be a human being because he was in the service and he was a navigator in the World War II, and he knew all the stars. And I just was like, oh my gosh, I want to learn the stars. So learn from your elders, watch them and understand them. Then understand your wife or your husband, because male-female relations are really important to watch. I stacked wood with my father. I did a lot of male activities, so I didn't raise my sons and daughters. And I'll tell you, I homeschooled. This is a very important thing. I homeschooled my kids. They were respected by men and women as children because they had homeschooling parents that respected them. We do not respect our children. We tell them what they should do, how they should do it. We tell the girls, we tell the boys who they should be, what they should be. We should have dolls. We should have, I just dealt with it with my son and daughter. It's huge for my grandchildren to have the ability to see both sides. And my granddaughter was not playing soccer. And they said, "You going to come play soccer? You going to play, baseball?" She's like, "I don't know, Grandma." And I said, "Let's get you a mitt." And then her mom said, "I got to get her a mitt." And I said, "Yeah, you got to get her a mitt." Like it's okay to share. And in homeschooling, it was very clear that there wasn't that delineation of male-female roles. And so that delineation gets separated. As soon as my kids tried school, it was separated. And the boys stayed with the boys, the girls stayed with the girls, and there was this whole scene. And so I think it's huge in the system. I think it's a huge system change that we need. So that's why we started the whole education piece. With Torch. Torch Seeds is our education program. It's a global education for both, what my experience is, what other people's experience is, but really for kids to connect to kids, to have a really good multi-generational relationship and a multi-dimensioned relationship. So I hope that helped.
Sim, Senora. Again, you and I are gonna connect further because my wife's Portuguese. I've been trying to learn Portuguese forever.
Oh, awesome.
I don't get anybody to practice it with. So
good. Practice.
You and I are doing some good work. We will connect further down the road. But I'm glad I asked that question because you filled in so many gaps. You talked about, respecting each other as genders, respecting the work each gender does. But you also mentioned breaking down the barrier and not suggesting that we are just our gender. We operate based on our gender. So thank you for all of that wisdom there.
You're welcome.
So we are going to start ending off our show, but I'd like to ask two questions before we do. What can we do as a society to help our men and boys overcome their challenges?
Oh gosh, it's such a help the women. you know, see the gift of both male female. It's been a big question. I've been looking at Aristotle and Socrates now, and it's going to be part of my doctorate work, because I think these early societies, there was a role for men to go out and be hunter gatherers and the women to stay home. And I remember Michio Kushi's book. He's the one that I studied with for 15 years growing up and in my 20s. And he really believed that women have a role in the hearth, the hearth and home. That she really was the hearth and home because of the compassion and what she felt, the feeling world. But men feel that too, and I saw that. And I raised my sons doing dishes. I raised my sons making beds. I raised my sons doing it all. And so when I think about my daughter-in-laws and my sons, the depth of how men can really be held is the compassion of spending time with your son. Both sides, male and female, spending quality time that they can have an opportunity to learn who you are as an adult person, but also you can learn who they are. I don't think we communicate well in generations, and that was one of my first degrees, was multi cultural, and I really look at it from a multi-generational relationship. I want to learn from the children. They have so much to teach. You go in a new workplace, just one workplace, and you're a new person and you can't bring a new idea because you're too new. That's nonsense. I'm sorry. That's like crazy making. You have to bring new ideas wherever you go. You have to give new ideas. If it's intuitive in relationship, most people are intuitive. Most people have an intuitive love, an intuitive kind heart. And we don't see that from each other. And we see it from these kind of dislocated places, and that's kind of what I spoke about earlier about you know having enough. My biggest dream was that we don't judge each other for tomorrow or even the next hour, because something might have happened to you and something might have happened to me, and it might have changed my whole demeanor. And if we don't judge each other in that moment, what a gift we can be in that presence. The Buddhists talk about it. Jesus talked about it. Everybody talks about being present, right?
Yeah.
It's
And it's
just,
hard not to judge in that moment, right? You know what I mean? Somebody's being miserable towards you, and
yeah,
that's all you see, right? So,
yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
so one final thing, and maybe it's the same question, but I'd like to hear if you phrase something differently. So, what can our men and boys do to lead a better life?
Hmm. Be in your depth of strength. I do believe one of the things that we're not teaching is that inner strength and that inner uprightness. I've been talking a lot about it recently, because we come up against. I just came up against a really really hard thing without reacting, learning your physical form so well. And I just talked to my son that just had the baby, and he wants his son to go into martial arts. And I said, really? This is new for me thinking. He said, no. His wife had been involved with that when she was young in Brazil, and the Brazilian arts really teach you how to hold onto your body, hold onto your spirit, hold onto your relationship. But we're not teaching that very easy. We're not teaching that inner strength. And that's where chopping wood, carrying water, my boys worked and my daughters worked. Everybody worked. There was a physicality to the work. It's not just in the mind. You have to get into the body and get into the physicality of who you are, and then learn who you are. But I also think it comes the other way, the witness of adults, seeing the strengths in men, seeing the strengths in the young boys. You as men have to witness these young boys and see who they are and guide them to be who they are, not somebody else. The whole academia structure is about becoming somebody, and it's not about becoming yourself. So if we're not becoming ourselves, then we get lost in a world of mires of, oh, I should have done that, I should have done this, and we're not doing that. So Torch Seeds is all about that, witnessing, being a witness.
Absolutely. Lynn, Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for your time. It's not easy to talk about and open up about personal life stories and experiences and
Hmm.
struggles. So I appreciate your courage and willingness to help share out there with our men and boys to help them overcome.
I hope so. And can I play a song?
Sure, to end us off, please do.
It's going to be a made up song in this moment. So we'll see what comes. Let's see what. I don't know this guitar very well either. Wonder, see your wonder. See your courage. See your courage. Open to wonder. Open to courage. There's a moment in time where we open. There's a moment in time that we call. There's an open in time that we notice one another. There's an opening time for courage. There's an opening time for you. There's an opening time for wonder deep inside. Ooh, ooh, ooh,
Wow.
ooh.
Lynn, thank you, Lynn Chittick, for joining and sharing your time and your journey with us today.
Be love. Be love.
Absolutely.
Thank you
When
so
people
much.
like your, thank you. Oh, well, thank you. When people like yourself come forward and share their life experiences on platforms like ours, especially on social media, it gives hope to people out there to change their mindset and maybe change their life in a positive direction. So, thank you. So that's our goal here with Open Up in Voice of Men 360. We want to bring individuals to share their life journey, like Lynn, and have an open conversation about men's problems and challenges and how we can help them grow. So, a few announcements. We have 4 live shows here in Voice of Men 360. The first you just experienced today is Open Up, where we invite people to share their life journey. This is a live talk show that takes place every Sunday morning Eastern Time at 10 a.m. Then we have Vili, which means I in Tamil. That's a Tamil language live talk show that takes place on Sundays, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for people who live outside of Canada. And then we have a monthly webinar, which takes place Saturdays every month from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Again, we are in Eastern Time. And then we have monthly special shows. The next one to come up, I believe, is the Unspoken Tears. This is the second Saturday of every month from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. The focus of this program is domestic violence against men, bullying, sexual assault against men, and human trafficking. These are topics that we need to talk about here in Voice of Men 360. And then we also will be hosting panel discussions, usually once a month, in English or Tamil. And then we turn our product into podcast episodes. So please look out for Open Up or Vili in your podcast. And we have a monthly men's support group. We have actually 2 now monthly support groups for men. We have our men only support group that takes place on the 3rd Sunday every month at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time through Zoom. And then we have an Indigenous peer-to-peer support group. That one is the 4th Friday of every month. And we call that one Pass the Talking Stick. And that's the 4th Friday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. again through Zoom. Thank you for that. Those are our announcements. Again, there are no age limits, gender, nationality, or ethnic groups. We want everyone to participate. We want to change the voice of men around the world. Please, if you want to be a guest on our show or you want to be a part of our community in any way or help us both indirectly or directly, please reach out to us. We'd love to work with individuals, professionals, organizations, governments, communities. We're looking to change the world through the Voice of Six Men 360, and we're looking to work with you. So please reach out to us. Our phone number is 437-889-8329. Once again, that is 437-889-8329. You can email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. Our website is www.voiceofmen360.org, and you can find us on all social media platforms. Again, we are Voice of Men 360. So again, look for us on all social media platforms, especially Facebook, where you can find us at facebook.com/groups/Voice of Men 360. You're watching us here on YouTube, so please like and subscribe for more information. We want to reach out to more people and help more people around the world. Your voice can help spread this message. So please join us. Please share this message. Please share the Voice of Men 360 around the globe. Until next time, I'm RJ Horner, and thank you for joining us.